Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
A wet Monday morning, Marlene.
Yes, it is.
In fact, it was a wet weekend.
Yeah.
It's not like we didn't know because the forecasters from last week, they were warning us that, hey, we're going to have a system that was developing in Nicaragua come over us this weekend. And we saw that. In fact, we felt that for those who live in Belize City, at least, because that's where I spent my weekend. You would have seen and felt the rain throughout the entire weekend. We had some let up here and there, but in terms of people, again, I always feel for the people that want to do their laundry and have to hang out clothes outside. This was not the weekend for that.
Well, yeah, but they did have enough warning to know that it was not a wash weekend at all.
It was not.
There was a bit of sun on Father's Day early in the morning. I thought that was a good treat for families that wanted to get out and have breakfast or brunch, even up to lunch. And then
or go to church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the downpour was back after that. But we know that there is a substantial amount of rainfall, especially in the north. We'll be talking a bit about that during the course of the show, as we know there is a advisory for flooding that's taking place.
You know, and you brought up Father's Day, and I just want to send my greetings to dads across the country who celebrated Father's Day yesterday with their families, with their loved one, with their kids. I know there's always this debate or this dispute between Father's Day and Mother's Day. Every single year it comes up. And this year was no different in terms of Father's Day gifts versus Mother's Day gifts, and which one is more expensive, exuberant, which one has the most value. And fathers, of course, always feel like they get the shorter end of the stick. On that, I saw some comparisons where one person was showing, Mikado's and Mirab had all these great deals for Mother's Day, and then on Father's Day they were having a deal on a garbage bucket. So they were having a deal on a garbage bucket, and you could get 20% off the garbage bucket. And I sat there like, you know what, I'm not a dad yet, but things need to change before I become one.
But the hardware store had sales. I gotta say that much.
Okay,
They had some deals going on. You know, I felt for them on the weekend. There were a lot of Father's Day activities planned on Saturday, especially, and you know, clearly the weather didn't cooperate. But yeah, we hear that every year that there isn't as much. But we ensure that we have fairness, and we had a Father's Day special on Friday. It was such a fun show.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunity to talk to fathers from different backgrounds and hear their story is always one that we look forward to, because there are good present fathers in this country, and we tend to very much generalize that they're absent, that they don't play their role. And I'm not saying that there aren't some who actually fulfill that particular stereotype, but there are many others who have been active in their children's growing up.
I love seeing fathers playing the fatherly role during Father's Day celebrations or Father's Day weekend. Not that they don't play their fatherly role all day of the year, but I'm used to seeing certain men in certain professional capacities, just engagement and interaction. And so I have a few of these professionals on my social media pages, and so during Father's Day weekend, you say, oh, you're a dad, and oh, you're a father, and oh, you don't see it often. And so to see ministers and to see CEOs and to see these folks that are prominent in public life, to then just go and be a dad I love that part of it, you know, to say,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, well, you're a dad. I didn't know. Congratulations.
Sounds like you're looking forward to that, Paul. But
Let's move
we're gonna
on.
leave that there. Of course, there is a lot for us to get into for this morning, but we're gonna get you started with some motivation, and of course, that means it's time for Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Expressing ourselves honestly in any relationship is essential to our well-being. When we are in a relationship where we feel listened to and understood, we count ourselves lucky because we know how rare that experience is. We reserve our most intimate selves for the people who, along with us, co-create an open space where we feel free to express ourselves and listen without judgment. These relationships, which thrive on open communication, can mean the difference between existential loneliness and a deep sense of belonging. We all long to feel heard, understood, and loved, and clear communication makes this possible. If the person we need to communicate with is open to sitting in mediation together for a set period of time before speaking, this can be invaluable. When we are calm and centered, we can count on ourselves to speak and respond truthfully. We can also meditate on our own time and then practice what we need to say. A visualization in which we sit with the person and lovingly exchange a few words can also be a great precedent to an actual conversation. If writing comes easily, we can write out what we need to say. It may take several drafts, but we will eventually find the words. The key is to find ways to center ourselves so that we communicate meaningfully, lovingly, and wisely. In this way, we honor our companions and create relationships in which there is a genuine sense of understanding and respect.
That's great, Marlene. Great way to start off the Monday, great way to start off the week. Talking about communication. I know it's something that a lot of us struggle with, especially in relationships. In fact, it's those relationship experts will tell you that communication is one of the keys to a strong relationship, and a lack of communication may also be what causes relationship to fall apart. And I know it's not always easy to communicate, to say how you feel, to be open and honest, but I do know as well that when you keep things bottled up and you keep things inside and you don't find a way to let out how you truly feel about a situation, how you truly feel about what may have happened or what may have gone wrong, then that creates some sort of volcano effect where it can just erupt and you can let loose in a way that you don't want to. And so to start the morning off, I love the fact that we're being encouraged to communicate, especially for us men. They often say that it's harder for men to communicate in relationships, and I find that to be true to an extent. Us as men, we tend to want to carry the burdens on our shoulders and say, oh, we're strong enough to deal with it. Let's get back to work. Let's get back to providing for the family. Let's get back to doing what we normally do as men. But it doesn't always work, and I think that's why a lot of us as men, we carry a lot with us because we don't communicate and openly share what we're feeling.
No, absolutely. You know, I think interpersonal communication is extremely difficult, and it's something that comes with a lot of practice. You know, I have my communication style, I have my listening style, and it's very often different from anybody else that I interact with. So it's about being able to learn from people what their communication style is and how they're able to interpret information as well. Some people love directness. Some people love things to be softened a bit. Some people will appreciate dealing with things immediately, while some would prefer some time to think things over before they have a conversation. And so we're all incredibly different, and trying very hard to be able to get our messages across to each other. But for me, I think that the challenge comes with being able to recognize whether or not your communication has been effective. You know, if I tell you something and I assume that you have understood it, or I assume that you hear me, there's nothing more frustrating than realizing after the fact that I wasn't really heard. And even more for you that you weren't able to receive the message. So I think it's a continuous check-in and practice that it takes, but so important in all of our relationships.
Truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that is our eye-opener for this morning. We're going to get moving now into our weather update for today. We have Francisca on the line. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys? I hope you're dry.
We are. We're
We are.
indoors, bracing for the thunder that we hear every minute. But Francisca, give us the update. What's happening with the weather?
Okay, so we have a tropical wave affecting us. And so for the rest of today, we'll see cloudy skies. We'll see some outbreaks of showers, more thunderstorms, and wide areas of periods of rain.
All right, so this is separate from the system that passed over us over the weekend.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. And what does this mean for our winds?
Okay, so we'll be seeing winds out of the east and southeast, 10 to 20 knots, 15 to 20 knots. There'll be gusty at times. And so we have a moderate to rough seas. We have a small craft caution.
All right. Now, we know that the north of the country got the brunt of the rainfall over the weekend. Do we know how many inches they recorded?
Okay, so yesterday morning we saw over 8 inches. Okay, and this morning I'm seeing two different places in the Orange Walk district. One is showing over 6.5 inches, and the other one is showing over 5.5 inches.
Wow. And they're,
Right.
and they're going to also get some of the rainfall that's coming in today?
Yes, they're still getting as we speak. Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so there is a flood warning.
That's right. We have a flood warning for those northern districts, and we have a flood watch for the rest of the country.
How many inches are we estimating coming in with this wave?
I would say about 12 inches total.
Over the course of today or today and tomorrow?
Oh, sorry. I'm adding up everything. I would say for the rest of today, probably like 4 inches.
Okay. All right. And let's shift gears to our temperatures then.
Okay, so for today along the coast, we are seeing a max of 84 Fahrenheit, inland 87, and the Maya Mountains 78. And then overnight temperatures 78 along the coast, 73 inland, and 68 up in the Maya Mountains.
All right. And how long are we going to be feeling the effects of this wave?
Okay, so we'll continue to see showers tonight on a decreasing trend. Tomorrow we'll be seeing less than today, so we are going for a few, but again, a few showers, thunderstorms, and periods of rain across the country. And then thereafter, we'll be seeing a gradual decrease. So by Thursday, Friday, we should be seeing isolated showers.
Okay. And keeping an eye on the tropics, is there anything we need to be monitoring?
Currently, there's nothing out there, but, we should still be keeping alert.
Okay. All right, Francisca. Well, thank you very much for that update.
You're welcome, my dear.
You have a great day.
Thanks, and same to you.
All right.
All right, thank you. Well, we heard what we assumed, more rain. Definitely we're going to get into a lot more of that throughout the course of this morning. But rains.
That's right. And just as so that we know, it is a separate tropical wave that is affecting us today. So it came right on the heels of that system that passed over after the weekend.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, though, we are going to shift gears and discuss the news coming out from the weekend and the news for the week ahead in Eye on the News.
All right, so Marlene, the first conversation I think is the obvious, the rains that's affecting the country, and we'll get into more of it, some deeper details when it comes to the floodings affecting the country. But what we saw last night, or before that, we were warned last week about a system that was developing off the coast of Nicaragua, and early predictions had kind of indicated that this system would develop into some tropical storm or tropical depression. That didn't happen. Nonetheless, we knew that after the system ran through Nicaragua and it ran through Honduras, that it would then come to Belize, bringing heavy rainfalls. And so we were kind of braced and prepared for that by all the experts over there at the Met Service for the weekend. Now, what we saw were heavy rainfalls throughout Friday night, Saturday. We saw some relief on Sunday morning. Then Sunday afternoon into Sunday night, it was right back again with the heavy rainfalls. And then about a bit before nightfall last night, we began to see some images and videos coming out of the north of the country. That is Orange Walk, and that's exactly what we're seeing there on the screen. This is along the Philip Golson Highway, if I'm not mistaken. This is right around the area where ASR BSI is located, heading into Orange Walk town. And so what we began to see, and that's one of the areas, and what we began to see a lot of flooding images and videos coming out of the north. And soon enough, NEMO at around 8 p.m. issued their first advisory, their first release, letting residents in the north know that one, that area that was being flooded along the highway, along the Philip Golson Highway leading into Orange Walk, that it was being caused by a culvert that had been compromised in the area, and that is what kind of caused that flooding along the street. But then in that same 8 p.m. advisory, the Orange Walk NEMO made the public aware of the fact that their operational center had become fully activated, and the release was saying that heavy rainfalls throughout Orange Walk district has caused flooding in Orange Walk town and villages. They informed the public that San Jose Government School opened as a shelter at 7:30 p.m. So they're already activating shelters by 7:30. Shelters were opening up. Carmelita Government School, they informed at 8 p.m. that shelter would have been opened at 9 p.m. And this is where this 8 p.m. advisory spoke of the culvert. It says the culvert by Tower Hill has partially washed away. Traffic is being diverted through the Guinea Grass Palmar Road, and that motorists were being asked to exercise extreme caution in that area at the entrance of San Jose Village. And the road to Guinea Grass was also flooded as well, under 2 feet of water. So you could imagine the amount of rain, as we heard earlier, that some areas experienced at least 8 inches of rain, and so motorists were asked to exercise extreme caution. This is early in the rainy season. We're still in June, the first month of the rainy season, and we're already seeing this amount of rain. Some parts of the country, 8 inches of rain, and so that's something to be concerned about, if nothing else, when we look at our preparedness, when we look at our infrastructure. And this doesn't only speak to the north, this speaks to the entire country. This speaks to some of the areas within the Belize City, the old capital. I think if you took some time, or if you've had the chance up to this time to drive through some of the streets in Belize City, you're seeing flooding as well. You're seeing some areas underwater. And it's a wake-up call. If nothing else, it's a sounding of the alarm per se in terms of what needs to be done, what needs to be addressed with drainages, so that in the event we get heavier rains, that we wouldn't be as affected as we are being right now by this tropical wave. And so, speaking of a tropical wave, an hour later from following that 8 p.m. Release, NEMO issued a second release, which they labeled their first advisory number 1, informing the nation that a tropical wave was approaching Belize. Now, when I saw this, first thing I said to myself, is this the same weather system, or is this something different? Because going into Friday, we're hearing of a system coming in, and now Sunday night, we're hearing of a tropical wave. Is what's happening here? And then I read more, and I began to understand that at the heels of that last weather system, we were now getting a tropical wave. So talk about unrelenting rains and unrelenting weather. Talk about an above average rainy or wet season. And so this is what we're experiencing here right now. I know that the Ministry of Infrastructure, Infrastructure Development and Housing, that they got their hands on the ground in Orange Walk as early as yesterday evening, and they began to conduct works in that area. And so the National Met Service in this release informed the general public of this approaching wave, which they indicated will cross us tomorrow, which is today, after the areas of low pressure that crossed over the weekend. And as a result of that passage of the area of low pressure, some areas in Orange Walk and Corozal districts received as much as 5 inches of rainfall during the past 48 hours. That's over the weekend. The approaching tropical wave, the one that I would imagine is here with us right now, so will continue to support very wet conditions persisting at least through to midweek. So we're talking about rainfalls at least to Wednesday. Heavy showers and thunderstorms. A flood watch remains in effect in keeping with flood advisories issued for areas prone to flooding. And it caught me in this release when NEMO indicated that the weather is expected to get worse in the coming days.
Yeah. No, and I think that one of the things, as I listened to the forecast just now, where we were enjoying sun in Belize City on Sunday morning, it seems that the north still had substantial showers. And so that particular system, we know that had the potential to develop, did in fact impact the entire country, but primarily the north as it headed to the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. So it does mean that, of course, our viewers in the north, we do hope that you are safe. We do hope that you are taking a proper assessment as to what risks you have in your area. You know, Paul, we are prone to flooding in this country. That's understood. But for me, I think the bigger picture is that we're reminded year after year when we get spared from tropical systems, tropical storms and hurricanes, that that doesn't spare us from the damage of floods. Yeah. And, we had the massive flooding of Eta and Iota, the remnants of Eta and Iota, just in 2020. And here we are, as you said, early in the hurricane season, seeing some early flooding as well. Not completely abnormal, but of course, anytime people lose property or their lives get at risk, we have to have concern over that. As you said, the activation of NEMO to open shelters, very timely, that, people who felt that there could be the threat of anything, there could be flash floods that happen at times, that they could leave and go somewhere to rest safely for the night.
Thinking about, just reflecting on the flooding in 2020 with Iota and Eta, that sends chills down my spine, just recollecting the memories in terms of those low-lying communities along the rivers that had to evacuate at a moment's notice. We're talking about, if you recall, overnight, People were in their homes, some just throughout the course of the day, seeing the river rise and rise and rise to the point where it became their areas, at least their communities and their land became uninhabitable. And for many of these communities, they have livestock, they have vegetation, they're farmers, agricultural producers. And so I think at this point, these people should be putting in place their contingency plans in terms of, all right, what are we going to do? What do we have in place? Are we prepared in the event that we need to move our cattle, we need to move our family to higher grounds? And so this again is one of those eye-openers, one of those wake-up calls for us to truly understand that we are in the hurricane season.
Yeah.
And as a result, we must put all things in place to ensure that doesn't affect us. I know that Belize City is also one of those concerns. Belize City considered a low-lying area, low-lying city, and we know that when the rains fall, that areas in Belize City get flooded pretty easily. And we've seen where rescuers and first responders have had to put their lives at risk because they've had to go in some very compromising position to rescue people.
Yeah. You know, and I do want to take a moment, though, to just discuss a bit of the North as well, because we do have to remember that we have the sugarcane farms in the North, and this is a part of their crop cycle as well. I know there was an advisory out for them to not go ahead and burn because they were expecting rains. With this level of inundation lasting through to Wednesday, and you know, because we've covered it so many times, that delays in the sugar industry always have an impact. So there's also some questions there as to what that will mean for the harvesting of this year's crop. And this much rain, especially if there are floods involved, where the farms will become saturated with water as well.
Fortunately for them, as I understand it, the season may be coming to an end pretty quickly. So if it's not at the end of this month, it's certainly very soon in terms of harvesting, because then, of course, at that then they'll prepare their crops for the following season, which is in December. But I've already seen some images of sugar roads within the field being so muddy and mucky that no truck, no person, not even with rubber boots, could get in there to finish their work. So that's definitely something to look out for.
So we're going to talk a bit more about flooding in the country, because we also have to take into consideration what the impacts of the rains in the neighboring countries will mean for us in the next few days. We've learned from that flood in 2020 that oftentimes we may not get the rains, but we get the flood waters coming down. So we have that conversation coming up in the show.
Yeah, definitely. And so you do want to stay tuned for that. I know you're engaged right now. I know you're interested in seeing what's happening with the weather. And so we're bringing that to you this morning to ensure that you stay up to date with what's happening. But Marlene, we want to switch gears a bit, and we want to head over to Nicaragua. Not for
the rains.
Not for the rains or for Prime Minister's comments at the summit. We want to head over to Nicaragua because some of our U18 and U20 athletes have been doing some amazing things, at least over the last weekend. So what we saw coming out of Nicaragua at the Cadica U18 and U20 championships, Belize won 8 gold medals.
Nice.
Between the U18 and U20, 2 silver medals and 1 bronze medal, putting us in 3rd place overall in the men's category. At least this is the men's category. 3rd place overall in the U18 and U20. So I just wanted to take some time to shout out our Belizean athletes. From Friday, I think we were receiving results. Mia Sylvester, Mr. Elrington, who did the triple jump. Yes, I got an opportunity to see her compete at the nationals few weeks ago here at the Marion Jones Stadium, and I was amazed. I mean, Mia was beating out the guys.
Yeah.
With her technique, her strategy, and her strength. She threw.
She broke a record on Friday.
So she broke a record on her first throw. She broke her personal record, and then in her second throw, both throws were goal throws, by the way. In her second throw, she broke the regional record.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's
but,
our Belizeans.
You know, it's nothing. If you listen to Mia's story, it's nothing new for her. She has several records under her belt. I can't remember her age, so I won't venture that in that direction. She told me I can't remember, but she's pretty young.
Yeah.
She's under 20 or under 18. And so this is just another record under Mia's belt. So don't get it twisted. She's young. She has a lot of talent, a lot of skills, and ways to go. In speaking with her, she told me that her mission, her ambition is to continue to compete regionally, and hopefully make some international records as well.
Yeah, you know, Paul, I echo your sentiments. It's great to be able to report some positivity first thing in the morning, and also to be able to recognize our athletes who are competing. The interesting thing I always say with athletics is because we don't have it's not one of our top sports in the country. So these athletes very often train and compete and work within their own supportive communities. And they keep on pushing and they keep on representing as well. So this is just natural talent that they have. We don't have all the facilities in place to be able to accommodate training for athletics, but yet they go out there and they shine. Yep. So it was great to get the reports coming in on Friday, hearing about how they were performing, and they were so confident in their interviews too, knowing very well what they brought to that competition.
Yeah, I think you putting it into perspective, you have to understand that we have Belizean youths who are competing against regional competitors who perhaps have established academies, sports academies within their country, and were performing at this level. One could only imagine what would happen if we were able to establish these sort of academies here in Belize and cultivate that talent. And so congratulations to them.
Right.
Marlene, just to end off our eye on the news and sort of a down note, just to say that on Father's Day, unfortunately, there was a murder in Belize City. We learned sometime after 4 p.m. that one Benjamin Hyde Sr., that he was gunned down the corner of East Canal and King Street on Sunday afternoon. Initial reports are suggesting that it is gang-related and that he was targeted as a result of being affiliated, connected, having relations with somebody that these gang members were after, and that he was murdered in a gang turf that is opposing to those that he is related to. And so it's never a good thing. It's never good news to report on these types of incidents, but that's something that we'll be following today, and we will have more on that in our 6 p.m. newscast, as well as all the other topics that we discussed throughout this morning's Eye on the News. So you don't want to miss that at 6 p.m. on Facebook, as well as on television.
All right, Paul, thank you for giving us the lowdown on some of the news coming out from the weekend, but we got to get moving into our show for today. And we are starting off by hearing from the principal hydrologist from the hydrology unit. She is going to be talking to us about the flood forecast for the upcoming days. There's been a lot of rain, and if you need to know exactly what the risks are in your area, whatever part of the country you're in, we're going to be able to find out more about that in the first part of the show.
And in our third segment, we'll continue our success Despite the Odds series, and we'll be having our 2022 graduates from, a 2022 graduate from Gwen Lizaraga High School. And so Victor Parham will be here with us today, and we'll be discussing all the odds and how he overcame those challenges. You don't want to miss that one.
All right, so that's what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we'll update you on what to expect with the flood situation in the country. So please stay tuned.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the Split the Bill button where he selects the Evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
The Five Sisters Resort, located at the Gaia River Lodge, is nestled within the pristine mountain pine ridge reserve in the district of Cayo. The restaurant offers a true farm-to-table experience, using fresh ingredients from the resort's organic garden, and is open daily for breakfast, lunch and dinner. To explore the restaurant and to get a special off-the-grid experience within the resort, we offer a 30% discount on accommodation for all locals and residents for the entire month of July.
Belize Tropical Hemp Company Limited introduces its new CBD products. CBD milk chocolate and CBD dark chocolate. Vegan, gluten-free with no GMO. CBD oil, 100% natural, provides many health benefits such as relieving pain and anxiety and improved heart health. Hemp cigarettes come in a pack of 10 natural hemp smokables. CBD seaweed, natural and refreshing, rich in vitamins and minerals. All products are produced and packaged by Belize Tropical Hemp Company Limited.
And we're back, and we're moving into our first conversation for this morning. As we have said quite a bit so far, there were substantial rains over the weekend, and this morning we're taking the opportunity to find out more about what the flood forecasts are for the upcoming days. And we have with us the principal hydrologist from the Hydrology Unit, Tennille Williams. Good morning.
Good morning, Marlene. Thank you for having me.
Now, I know that very often people don't know this, but there are regular flood forecasts that are produced for the country from your unit. Can we discuss that for a bit?
Sure, yes. Hydrology has been producing a flood forecast for the past 30 years. Mm-hmm. We do them usually every 2 days, and when we're into flood season like now, we say as is necessary because the situation can be very volatile, it can change quickly. So we normally say every day or as necessary.
Now, you monitor across the country, and you have different levels of advisories. Can you explain that?
Yes, we are responsible for monitoring the entire country. We have 39 rivers, which we are to monitor, and those are just major rivers. We're not talking about all the other smaller ones. One day we will get there, but for now we monitor the major rivers. And what we do is that we dissect the country into regions. So we have region 7, which is the north that's flooding right now. We have region 9, which is the central part, region 11 and 13. So whenever we do our forecast, you would know, or you would see on the form that it has region 7, region 9, and to us that is specific. We know what those regions are aligned to, but within the wording of the forecast, we try to place localities.
Okay.
You know, we're spatial people. We can, you know, if we place a location, we can say, okay, I've been there, I know where you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's how we align our flood forecast. What our technicians do, they are basically in the field, and they mark off all the flood level stages. So we have what we call bank full. So bank full is when it is just at the banks and it's going to overflow, and then we have flood plains, and so your flood plains go beyond your banks. Our data analyst now takes that information and we put it into what we call a hydrograph. And so how we get this data, you know, we don't have automatic stations everywhere.
Yeah.
And we do believe that when you engage the community, you get a better product. So our SOP has always been to engage community members. So we have what you call community observers or hydrological observers. So these are residents within the community where the station is placed, and they read what we call our oversized rulers. But they're actually called manual gauges or station gauges. They send us information twice daily on a normal basis. During flood times, it just depends on how fast the water is rising. We would be getting these updates, sometimes minutes, hours, whatever frequency as the situation dictates.
Yeah.
39 rivers. That's news to me. I was unaware that we have 39 rivers in Belize, and that's not the small river systems. But in terms of monitoring, so you have personnel on the ground at these gauges, and they're monitoring that to see an increase or decrease in water levels.
Okay, so to put it in context, they're sitting looking at these gauges.
Yes.
Okay, we have intervals that we consider to be the best option, given that we cannot place persons there to just sit and look at these gauges. So 6 a.m. in the morning and 6 p.m. So what they would do is at 6 a.m. they read the gauge, and then they would either WhatsApp it to us or call us, or we call them whenever we get into the office.
Yeah.
So they're not physically sitting there. As much as we would like to have that type of environment, it's not really necessary. It's only during what we would call June to November, or in these last 3 years we've seen from May going right up to maybe January, February.
That's right.
So the time frame is changing a bit.
Yeah.
But these community residents, they read the gauges for us 6 a.m. in the morning and 6 p.m. The data comes into our office. We input it in our data sheet, which populates our hydrograph, and we can know what is going to happen with the rivers.
Now there are several things that can cause a flood. One, naturally, is lots of rainfall. But what are some of the contributing factors?
Okay, flooding, you have different types of flooding to begin with.
Okay.
We have several. You have pluvial, which is rainfall. You have fluvial, which is flow from the rivers. You have flash flooding, which is mostly rainfall over a steep slope. And then you have what we call urban flooding, which is what we're seeing in Orange Walk, and we see in parts of the country, especially Belize City. Driving here, I saw some streets already flooded, but it's not to say it's from a riverine system. It's based on rainfall. But those are not in isolation. You can have any combination of those.
Okay.
So what we saw in Eta and Iota was a combination. We actually had flash floods, we had pluvial floods, and we have fluvial. Because that system was not only over Belize, it was transboundary. So normally we would get fluvial flooding with a transboundary influence.
Which means the water comes from
Another
Central
country.
America and comes into our waterways.
Right, so usually Guatemala and Mexico are our influences for transboundary flooding or fluvial flooding.
Now, looking at the situation that we have right now, you said Orange Walk is more urban flooding. What does that mean?
It's mainly caused by excessive rainfall.
Okay.
As I explained earlier, our hydrological observers read the stations that we have on the Rio Hondo and on the New River. And none of those stations, according to the data we've received, is showing any bank full stages.
Okay.
So that is how we differentiate between the urban flooding and the fluvial flooding.
Okay.
In terms of Orange Walk, over your years of experience with flooding, how much rainfall would it take for urban flooding to this extent to occur?
Orange Walk is a bit precarious because of the type of geology that they have. In the north, it's normally flat, so we don't see this gush of rainfall. It would take really excessive rainfall amounts. I've been monitoring the rainfall over the weekend, and in some parts they received up to 5 inches of rain. So that's, considering continuously, it's quite a bit of rainfall that we're expecting, and we're still getting rainfall. So it just depends on the situation. There are other factors such as soil moisture. You have to see whether the soil is, saturated, it already has water, or it is dry. Those are factors that also influence whether you have flooding.
Yeah.
Another a factor is drainage.
Right.
If we're not keeping our drains clear and we're piling it up with garbage, and we're clearing large tracts of land that would otherwise would hold the water within a specific environment, then those also are factors that would affect flooding and the magnitude of flooding in any area.
So would your office perhaps work closely with, let's say, the Ministry of Infrastructure Development in terms of using your data to inform them of these areas that are flooded and perhaps drainages needs to be addressed?
Everyone basically comes to us for hydrological data. They use it when they're building roads or bridges or anything of that sort. They come to us for historical flood stages, because when you're doing infrastructure, you wouldn't want to build beyond what your flood plain is. But we have a very fluid relationship with most of our sectors where they come to us for information, and we share information with them as well.
Yeah. Now the flooding that we've seen, you mentioned the I know we call it you call it soil moisture, but we call it saturation. So basically, either it's a wet sponge or a dry sponge, how much it's going to absorb. But there are also other factors too, like tides in Belize City. We pay attention to that. All of these can make a regular rainfall look like a flood.
Yes, and in Belize City, we're very familiar with North Front Street. Being the primary one, whenever there's high tide and there's no rainfall, it's like, oh, it's high tide, because we see flooding. Also on the lower part of Dean Street, I believe, we can see the tides affecting those areas, and it's not only unique to there; it's anywhere in the country. It's just depending on the elevation and how more visible it will be. In terms of Orange Walk, they are a bit inland, so you would see more in terms of at the San Pablo Ferry. Coming up to Caledonia, you might see this interaction with tides. Sometimes it has occurred all the way up to Tower Hill. So the tides are very powerful in this case. But with our current situation, the tides is not affecting it as yet. When we start to see riverine flooding and then we combine that with tides, then we would be able to make that determination. But for right now, with the data that we do have, it's not lending to that particular consideration.
Now let's talk about the south especially, because I know the south was seeing flooding from Thursday into Friday. What's the situation over the weekend?
Okay, so they have been receiving rainfall. As I said, we get our updates a little bit later in the day when we're in the office, but there have not been any reportings or reports to us indicating that the situation has changed. We get our data very early in the morning, but you know, with travel time, we live in Belize City, we work in Belmopan, it's not really conducive to having that on-the-go information, even though we do try. But we have checked our platform called the Central American Flash Flood Guidance System, which is CAFG for short. And it is showing elevated rainfall levels in that area. But of course, we would need to also dialogue with the National Met Service to confirm this, because, you know, models, they're just models, they're forecasts. They can change. So we always need to have that validation of data. So we go to our counterparts with that mandate to make sure that we're getting the right information before we put out a forecast.
So in the south, the main cause of flooding that you've noticed is rainfall.
It's rainfall with a combination of slope. All the rivers of the Maya Mountain Massif, as we call it, they have very steep slopes. And so the rainfall comes off it very fast. So what we often get in the south is a lot of flash flooding. Some of them we catch and some we do not, simply because we don't have automated stations in those areas. So within the day, you might get a rise and fall, but we don't capture that because of the 6-hour, the 12-hour window that which we get our reading. So we get 6 in the morning and 6 in the evening. It is not to say within that time period you would not experience, you know, a little flood in the area, but it's not flooding that would trigger NEMA or trigger some kind of disaster response action, but it does occur. But usually in the south, what we see is a lot of flash flooding.
So these are areas where residents must be on high alert when we get a lot of rainfalls, because I could imagine these are one of the areas where you could go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and bam, your yard flooded, water up to your step, water almost in your house
everywhere,
as well.
Yes. That is most definitely the situation. If we go to the south, you have a lot of hills and valleys. And so these communities are, and historically we settle close to water. You know, we can do without a lot of things, but water is definitely not one of them. So we tend to settle near to river systems. And with NEMA, as I understand, they have a river monitor system. And we are working, dialoguing with them to try to incorporate that system into the national network so that we can have standardized data, and it's better for everyone in terms of, instead of saying the height of the flood went to that tree, 5 years down the road they log that tree. There's no more tree for us to benchmark, right? So we're trying to, as best as we could, given the constraints, you know, with COVID and everything, it really put a damper on finances. We're trying to, as best as possible, to incorporate however we can to standardize data collection in the country, because it only helps us in terms of modeling. Modeling does not work well with anecdotal information. It works well with measurable data.
Yeah, you know, as you say anecdotal, I know there's always an advisory that calls for flood-prone areas. What are some of these communities? Because there's some communities that are continuously and consistently at risk for floods. I don't know what type of communication has happened with these areas about the risks associated with it. But let's talk about some of these areas.
Yes, flood-prone areas are usually those communities that are in low elevation and they're located near to a river source. Okay, in the case of Belize City, we're surrounded by rivers. So we're a flood-prone area. Certain areas within the city are more flood-prone than others. Like for example, and I don't want to use Jane Usher, but it's the best example and the most that we're most familiar with. When we have certain areas of the country that are wetlands, for instance, and we remove the wetlands and then we start to inhabit these areas, they become flood-prone areas because the original function of that area was to hold the water that is not in the city proper. So we need to be very careful when we start thinking about urbanization and clearing the wetlands. If you're going to clear it, then you need to find another mechanism to hold that water that normally goes there. Water doesn't think. It's not a living thing. It goes where it knows it should go. It will go where it has least resistance. So we need to look into trying to find other mechanisms like stormwater management. Maybe we can capture it, maybe we can divert it. These different mechanisms, but for some areas we just can't run away from it.
Yeah.
Belize City being one of such. We can't run away from the flooding. It's been here since it was Belize or British Honduras, so we just need to adapt and live with it. But what we need to do is to make sure that we don't increase the vulnerability of residents to flooding.
Yeah.
Yeah, the power of water is amazing. I think we don't take enough time to understand how powerful water is in terms of flash floods. We could wash away streets. You could wash away so many things during a flood. When we speak of Belize City being below sea level, would you help us to understand a bit about what we're speaking about there? For those who may not be clear on it, or you may think, all right, Belize City is below sea level. Does that mean the sea is here and then our land exists at a level below that, so it's more prone to flooding? What are we talking?
You have it exactly right. Some parts of the city is lower than others. It's below sea. It's not the entire city that's below sea level, and it's not only Belize City that is below sea level. There are parts in Corozal that are below sea level. However, their location could be inland. It's away from the sea. It's away from the river, so it would not be flooded as much. So it's not just Belize City. It's more than one part of the country. It's just depending on location that it would be more visible to be below sea level.
Now let's talk about the forecast for the days ahead. We saw a substantial, I think they told us how many inches this morning. Some places saw as much as 8 inches over the weekend, and now we have the tropical wave coming in. How does that impact the flood forecast moving forward?
Okay, so what happens is that we're actually in a good position right now, Marlene. The rivers aren't flooding. If the rivers start to flood, then we start to see residence time, meaning that we start to see the floodwaters staying where they are because they don't have anywhere to run off to. So right now we're in a very good position that the water still has somewhere to run off to. In the north, if we continue to get this kind of rain, undoubtedly, we are looking to see a rise in the rivers. We cannot tell as yet whether it will be riverine flooding because it's very flat. And we usually have a transboundary influence coming into flooding of those rivers. But for right now, we don't forecast seeing the rivers being at flood stage. We just see the urbanized flooding continuing and that runoff going into the rivers and out to the sea.
Okay, and that's for the north. What about the rest of the country?
The rest of the country, before we're seeing in some areas above normal levels, so they're not at flood stage, they're not at bank full. So we would need to look at the data more closely once we're in the office and we get all the water levels coming in to tell us what is happening with the rivers, but we don't foresee flooding at this very moment. That situation might very well change when we reach to the office and we start to get the water level readings coming in. Water is something that you can't time it to the exact second. It depends on a lot of factors: rainfall, changing land use, saturation of the soil, a whole lot of factors that we need to consider whenever we put out our flood forecast. So we use multiple platforms before we actually put out a flood forecast because we know the importance of alerting persons, but we don't want to unintentionally over-excite persons when we put out a flood forecast. But a forecast is just that, a forecast, and it can change the minute after we put out that forecast. So we try to be as accurate as possible.
And what about the communication with Mexico and Guatemala to see what's happening there? I know in Eta and Iota it was very much a big part of a very big contributor to the flood that we saw.
Yes, we don't have formal systems established with them. However, through the platform that I mentioned, the CAFG system, we are able to see what is happening in terms of possible flood impact in those countries. But we don't have any formally established contacts with them in this regard, even though that is something that we are working on.
Okay, and the indicators so far are looking good. They don't have floods.
Yeah, I don't see any coming out of their countries so far, and we usually see those through the elevated river levels. We have pointed places on the rivers, like for the Mopan River. We would look at Benke because that is where our station is. So that is the inflow of any water coming in from Guatemala. For the Rio Hondo, we have several stations. So we look at Blue Creek North, which we know as Union, we record as Union. That is our first inflow into the country. So we do have trigger points along those systems that without the communication, we would still start to see some elevation in water levels.
You know, over the years, when we look at the impact of floods, and I guess 2020 is the easiest one to remember, but I remember that flash flood down south that devastated, and even the one that swept away the Kendall Bridge. How better is our warning system now compared to then?
We're trying to improve on our warning system, Marlene. With warnings, you need to have models, flood modeling, and that is something that I have been pressing for us to start to engage in terms of flood modeling, because flood modeling then tells you the extent, the severity of any system that would come across Belize. But it is an expensive venture, and it is very data intensive. You need to densify your network within your station so that you have the best possible information. We don't want to over densify because, as we say, too much of anything is not good for you, so you have to have the right mix. So we're working on that for the north, specifically the Rio Hondo, through the Green Climate Fund readiness project that the ministry through our office has, where we're doing a hydrological investigation into groundwater, because you see groundwater also plays a significant role in absorbing rainfall. And so we need to understand what system we have, where are our pockets of water, what's the infiltration, and infiltration is what it allows to go down. How fast does it go down? So that also impacts saturation. So we're doing all these investigations under the GCF project to better understand that system, as well as we have another project through the Climate Technology and Climate Network that is specifically looking at the New River watershed. So we might not be doing it in one big meal, but we're doing it, you know, how it is best handled, so we can have the best information on both systems, rather than having basic information on the two systems.
Over the years that you've been monitoring the potential for floods in the country, are we seeing changes in patterns?
Yes, we will see change in patterns, because rainfall is one of the components that affect us. And if we start to get these very intense rainfall activity over a short period of time, we will start to see more flooding happen. So really our processes are somewhat tied to rainfall, but it's not exclusive to rainfall. So as the rainfall patterns change, then the flooding will also change.
So what can we expect over the next few days if the rains persist in the manner it is right now?
We can basically expect these conditions to persist. They can change if like I said, if we start to see riverine flooding. The water level might go higher, or it might what we call fan out, it might spread out. But once it has spread out to its furthest extent, then it starts to get higher. So the situation, it's very challenging to say this is exactly what is going to happen. But we do expect these same flooding conditions to persist.
Over the next few days?
Yes, if the rainfall continues at the magnitude that it currently has, if it increases, then I don't think I need to say anything further.
Just pray for some sun at this moment.
Yes, hopefully we see some sunshine soon.
All right, but the good part is that, at least as you said, the latest forecast, the last forecast that you did, the rivers aren't at flood stages yet, so that's promising.
Right, and just before I came in, I was getting some water level readings in that area, and it's still not showing that we're even approaching bankful. So that is very good in terms of when the rainfall ceases. It can allow the runoff to go into the riverine systems, and then basically we try to return to some sense of normalcy, given that we don't have any more rainfall events.
Yeah, let's hope. All right, well, we appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to share with us? Where can people see the flood forecasts?
We send out our flood forecasts via our distribution list, and lately we have been working with our ministry personnel to have it on our website.
Okay.
So they can visit naturalresources.gov.bz, and we should have our flood forecast up there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and helping us understand the science of forecasting floods, and most importantly, the latest update as to what's happening in the country. Thank you.
Thank you too.
All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to do a check-in with the Orange Walk NEMO coordinator to find out what the latest is that's happening there. They have some advice for residents, and we'll get that update in a few.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
There are 3 categories to choose from: budget, economy, Island Lux. Try our services today and earn loyalty points on each ride to get cashback deals on your next ride, or sign up to be a Medriva driver. Just be sure to have your police record on hand. Transportation services at your fingertips. Download the app today. Medriva, opening doors to new opportunities.
Hi, I'm Chef Sean Quillen. I love cooked fish fillet, and I prefer to get my fish straight at the fish market right here at Conchel Bay. But you see, sometimes you come out here and you don't know what you're getting. The fish has no label, it has no patch of skin. But don't worry about it. I am here today to teach you how to avoid fish fraud. When purchasing your fillet, remember to look out for the patch of skin required by law. Or you could tell them by the physical characteristics: long and slender, barracuda, nice white meat, hagfish, the deep bloodline from the bow to the stand, that is jack. When buying in bulk or buying out of a bag, make sure to inspect each fillet individually to avoid what we call in a Creole, pussy in a bag. What a pussy in a bag? Fraud. If that's not the help you, because even for me as a professional chef at this man for 40 years, that's really challenging. All I could tell you is buy from a reputable source or buy it whole. And if all of that's not available to you, just go to fishrighteatright.com and we at Oceana have a fish identification chart. Because guess where you're going here now? We talk about bloodline just now one thing, and that's a snapper, right? Classic snapper. What kind of snapper this?
This is the shark.
Nurse shark. Highly illegal. No make they trick you, no make you buy pussy in a bag. Do the right thing. Fish right, eat right.
And we are back, and this morning we started off with talking about the floods that we are seeing in the north of the country, and that NEMO has in fact activated its Orange Walk Center. So to provide the latest update to our viewers and of course those in the north, we have with us the NEMO coordinator, Mr. Juan Leiva, on phone. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure.
All right. So, Juan, tell us a bit about what you were seeing in Orange Walk yesterday.
Okay, yesterday the rain actually started around 4 o'clock. No, I thought it was going to a little bit of rain, but then I noticed that it increased heavily. No, so I decided to activate our emergency meeting with my team. No, to see what would happen. And when we did meet, we decided that we needed to open some shelters because we were getting calls already that people are being flooded, not only in the villages but also in the town.
What areas were you seeing the flooding?
Mostly in San Pablo, some areas of Carmelita, Blackwater a little, and mostly within town limits.
What I'm hearing you say, Mr. Leiva, is that these floodings pretty much happened within an hour, 2 hours?
Yes, this one, it looked like I would describe it as a flash flood. That is how I would describe it, because we have never seen Orange Rock be flooded like that in such a short span of time, no?
Okay.
So it really caught us a little bit by surprise. Even though we were expecting the rain, we did not expect that a lot of places get flooded. But what is good about it as well for us was that the water receded rather quickly, no?
Yeah. How high did you find the floods in some of these areas?
In some of the areas, it was like about 1.5 feet.
What happened? What happened there along the Philip Golson Highway, closer to ASR BSI? That was some of the first images and videos we saw coming out of Orange Walk.
I guess the culvert was not able to push all the water out, so it actually ran over the banks, and it actually started to erode the road at that area, no? But it's a good thing. It, like I said, it receded quickly, and that area has been looked after by MIDH.
Yes. Now let's talk about your activation. You opened a few shelters last night, right?
Right, 2 shelters actually. That were being concerned.
Where did you open those shelters?
Okay, the San Jose Government School was open and still remains on standby for today. And also Carmelita Government School is open and remains on standby.
You said that you were getting calls from families. From what area were they calling from?
Yes, mostly some people were saying that the water is in town. We got a couple of them, and mostly it was, I think, when we went to the assessment, it was drainage problem, no? Some of the drainage were stopped up. The same thing in most villages. It's mostly drainage problems.
Okay. And they are concerned by the water coming into their homes, or they feel a threat? What is the situation?
Yeah, water was going into their homes, and they thought it would have continued raining incessantly, no? And that is why they had that concern. No, but I guess that once the water started to recede, they noticed that it was just, like I said, a flash flood that had caught all of us unaware, no?
Okay. And since last night into this morning, what's the difference in rainfall? Are you still getting substantial rainfall?
No, not from around 12 o'clock midnight last night. The rain eased up a lot. We had a couple, like 15 minutes of a heavy rain, and then that was it. Until this morning, it's only slight drizzle to none.
Okay. That's good to know. So that gives the water some time to run off.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did an assessment around 3 o'clock in the morning to see how the water was going down, no? And we went to the different areas, and we were glad to see that the water were really receding rather quickly.
So you've already done your assessments for these areas?
Yes, but we expect to do another one in a little while. We need to do another assessment because we are expecting a little bit more rain, no? So we just have to be monitoring the areas, no?
What are
we will go out and do assessment.
Initial assessments? Any sort of damages noted at this point?
No, none has been reported as yet, no?
Okay.
None has been reported as yet.
So what?
The mere fact that the people did not come out of their homes might be an indication that there was not much damage done, no? And haven't received any report from them as yet. But we will be going out, like I said, and we'll be doing those assessments in a while.
What does the rest of the day and perhaps the rest of the next few days look like for you and your team up there in Orange Walk?
Okay, if I heard correct, you're asking me what would we be doing these couple of coming days, no?
Yeah.
Okay. We will be on standby. We have the committees on standby. We will be doing river monitoring. We will be doing fire assessments of the areas, no? Because it's very important to assess whether the water is rising or it is going down. So that is our main concern here in Orange Walk. And we are working in conjunction with the town council, who did a very good job assisting us in the town, no? The town limits and some part of the outskirts. So we are working together with town council, which is a good partnership that has been forged here in Orange Walk, no?
Speak a bit, if you would, to your collaborative effort with the Ministry of Infrastructural Development and Housing. I understand that a couple of teams were brought in last night. What was the extent of their work?
Oh, yes. MID, Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing, did a superb job. I must commend them, no? Mr. Jones, he was out as soon as we made the call. He was out. He had some teams out already doing also assessment and clearing up some of the drains and culverts that need to be cleared, no? Which helped a lot.
Yeah. So it's helping to get it to drain out quickly.
Yes, that's correct.
So what's the advice that you are getting at this time? Are you expecting more showers and more concerns for floods?
Yes, we're expecting another advisor. We have been advised that there's a tropical wave that's going to pass the country, bringing more rain, no? But we're still awaiting that advisory from NEMO HQ.
And
I was going to ask you, how much of an issue is drainage up there in the north a contributing factor to these floodings?
Okay, we have seen from the past rains that drainage is indeed a major issue. Not that it is not maintained. Most of the drains are maintained, but I think the problem is that people continue dumping their building materials in the drains. They continue dumping garbage in the drains, and that is what causes the clogging of all of those drains and not allow the water to run. So that is a major issue. That is the issue that we have, and people not clearing up their in front of their yards, no, and it allows the water to stay stagnant.
So that goes into the drainage system and helps to clog it up.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, Juan, of course, with more rains coming, what's your advice to residents in Orange Walk? Are there specific areas that perhaps you need to be on alert or monitoring?
Definitely, we have we already identified our most vulnerable areas in town, as well as the different communities in the rural areas. So, like for example, Douglas, San Antonio, the Albion Islands, part of San Jose, part of, and for the first time we've seen that water was stagnant coming by the Comango gas station. No, but we know that development brings its own trouble, no?
Yeah.
Some people raising their land, and some people, like I said before, not clearing their drainage. So if people would come out, maybe when it's clear and not drizzling, we could clean up a bit of their drains and allow the water to run, then that would very much ease the problem of the flooding.
Yeah. What parts of the town are you talking about? You said some parts of the town are need to be on alert.
Yes, for example, we have the Santa Familia where the big savanna is, the contour of the savanna by Dr. George Estate. We have, of course, the riverside area of the New River. No, those are some, and of course in Charles Farm it is the Blackwater area, no. So those are the three main areas that we have to look at.
Those are just areas in town, or those are also that also includes the community. There's different communities in the district, because I wanted you just briefly to go over again what are the areas being affected in terms of the villages and the areas within the city.
Okay, last night we only had the people from some people from San Pablo, San Jose, and Carmelita, and of course a couple of residents from town and a couple of residents from Blackwater. But like I said, the minute that the rain eased down a lot, and then the water started running down now, started going and receding.
All right. And how this is a great test for the machinery for hurricane season in being able to activate NEMO, get your shelters up and running. How did that exercise go?
Oh, that went well. I think we have a good team here in Orange Rock when it comes to the housing and shelter, the human resource, the transport department, town council, MIDH, and the BDF, as well as the police. They're very much involved in what we're doing. So I must commend my team that is here, the committees, that they do show up and work whenever we need them.
All right. And Mr. Leyva, of course, anything you would like to tell the residents of Orange Walk who may be watching this morning as to what to expect in the days ahead?
Okay, we expect a little bit more rain from maybe today, tomorrow. To be alert, to continue watching the weather reports, listen to the advisories on NEMO, and also be prepared. Be prepared and also assist us by cleaning in front of their yards. If they notice that their drain is clogging up with debris, then clear it up. Don't wait for maybe town council or the village council to clean up for you. That would be a great help.
All right. And as you said, some of the shelters still remain open in the event.
Right.
Which ones are still open?
San Jose Government School and Carmelita Government School. And then as we go along, we open those that will be needed, no? So we have the housing and shelter and the human resource on standby.
All right. And what's the contact information if anyone needs the assistance of NEMO?
Okay, my contact number is 614-7177.
Okay.
That's Mr. Juan Leyva, and 302-3228, which is the office number.
All right. Well, Juan, thank you so much for giving us the update. I know you all have had a long night. But thankfully, the news looks promising this morning.
Thanks as well for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. Take care.
All right. Well, the good thing, Marlene, is the fact that most of these schools are out at this point. So
I didn't even think of that.
You're right. The hurricane shelters are vacant.
Yeah.
And so that's a plus. But with that, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll be sitting and talking with a graduate about his success story defeating the odds. You don't want to miss that one. Stay tuned.
Benny's is kicking off Father's Day with popping deals for dad. In the month of June, visit a Benny's near you and get 19 to 25% off selected items such as Milwaukee and Axie power tools, Charbroil barbecue grills, car care products, Karcher pressure washers, and much, much more. Make dad happy with popping deals for dad in June, only at Benny's.
Benny's, Benny's, oh, Benny's, Benny's.
Galenia Hospital, located in Cancun, Mexico's premier tourism destination, is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility that provides highly specialized medical services. We are Quintana Roo's biggest private hospital with board-certified doctors and staff. Some of our services include cath lab, adult intensive care unit, neonatal intensive care unit, emergency rooms, operating theaters, ambulance services, and more. We are a medically accredited hospital by JCI, Accreditation Canada International, and General Health Council, providing extraordinary care in every specialty, from our cardiology department to our neurology center. We are focused on treating the entire person, body, mind, and spirit. Contact us at medicaltourism@hospitalgalenia.com or visit our website at www.hospitalgalenia.com. Come to Galenia Hospital in Cancun for a truly personal medical care experience.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
We are back, and as we said earlier, we have been taking this month to celebrate the 2022 graduates and top achievers. And the interesting thing, Paul, is while we've been talking to valedictorians and top students from different schools, we wanted to take a different direction today. People who are graduating, who are doing so beyond the very challenging odds that they've faced. We have one 2022 graduate with us. He is graduating from Gwen Lizarraga Evening School, Victor Parham, who is graduating after returning to the classrooms after 8 years being out. Wow. Good morning, Victor.
Morning, morning.
Morning, Breds.
And congratulations. How does it feel to be a graduate?
Well, we really feel real good, you know, after 8 years, you know, I decided to come back, you know, thanks to the people, you know, I have in America and I see a way to check, motivate me on a daily basis, you know, for us, you know, try to some better for my life further than just, you know, the home, not do nothing and stuff like that, check. So, yeah, like, you know, me, for one, my stepmother, Miss Amanda Menjivar, I check who teacher St. John's College, you know, she motivate me, I check for, you know, going back to school and thing, and when I, you know, decide to say, well, yes, I like different sort of do start open up for me and thing like that, check. So yeah, very grateful for, you know, that lady there, check, you know, my life, seeing we have to check.
Why did you say yes?
Well, for be real, you know, I recently, you know, have a kid to check, so I decided, you know, that I need for something for she to see a way to, you know, like better for she life to me, you know, they better than just, you know, the waste my life on my street side, or, you know, I need to work up and be able to provide for she. You know, make, you know, whatever she wants and thing in her life, I could, you know, give her that pay school fees, whatever, check. Yeah.
So you were what, 15, 16 when you stopped school?
Yes. About that, yeah.
In the second farm?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, why you stop?
When I'm young, you know, I'm a type of individual with us, you know, unruly. You know, like give trouble and stuff like that to check. So that, like, even though my principal, you know, talk to me daily, mentor me and stuff like that, you know how kids go, you know, want to do what we want to do, check. So I may end up get expelled, You know, Ghana Mad Williams for like 1 month, get expelled from Neto. Check, so I just decided to say, well, school and never for me at that time. You know, follow my crowd and start hanging out and what's not on street corner and stuff like that, check.
You ever thought, did you think about going back to school before?
At that time, yeah, but to be honest, like, true to the fact that my parents keep on me to spend money and like them the way I sit that like one spell like they turn their back still to check, but you know, like that's the way I feel, and I never really 100 about that say way too, because then my parents very supportive. I check when it comes to weight. You understand, my father and my mother. You understand? So
but in your head, you may tell yourself they never want to continue.
I believe so true to the fact that, I mean, I recently get expelled for Nazarene. I went to Mad Williams and just like 1 month, the most.
Get expelled from
Yeah, so I said, sure, I don't know my parents, understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, tired of this.
Yeah, you dig?
Yeah.
I must say I want to deal with me. So then I named us, understand?
Yeah.
Until one day, me and my stepmother, you know, had a nice talk and thing, and you know, she bring it up to me, I check. And I decided, you know, say, well, yeah, I want to go back now. Because then I do a lot of reflection, then within the 8 years, I still too. Understand? And all of that like motivate me, see a way to say, well, I go on, I need to try to do something different. Understand? Because then this is not the work. So in order to get different results, you know, we have to do different stuff. We can't do one stuff over and over and feel like we get different results, so check. So yeah, I take the opportunity, you know, she do a lead part, to give me the transcript, pay me the school fees, and you know, I just hold strong to me, no check.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
what was it like going back in the classroom?
Well, to be honest, I really enjoy it, understand? Like I still tell my other half and stuff like that, like, just when I get feel of it, I get the sense that real kind of way like it come to an end. But then that's so life goes some time, I check.
Yeah.
But I not stop the need to me, because then right now the way my mind see we took a walk and continue to. I check. Yeah,
You should.
that's greatness with the strive for me, not the strive for check.
Yeah. You know, sometimes when people think about going back in school, they feel scared because they'll be older than the other students, or maybe because they feel like they forget everything they learned when they messed up. Did you have that?
No, not really, man. You know, they honestly not really. That like the teachers for Gwendolyn's evening division, they're very nice to me. You know, check, they take for their time, you understand, and they work it and they help you. You check, and I never had no issue sit down in the classroom. Whatever I don't know, I talk to them about, and they try for their very best to assist me and to make I get you understand where they go on. You check, so big respect to the teachers from Gwendolyn's evening division, same way to check, because they try, man, and they do it with everybody. Understand? For their motive that for make sure everybody graduate. You check, you know, try, you know, like left nobody behind or stuff like that to check. So then people are really, you know, people were good set of people to check, and teachers there.
Yeah, let me just first just go back a bit to say happy belated Father's Day to you. I know we celebrated that yesterday, but at what point in the classroom did you begin to realize, you know what, I could actually do this, and this is something I'll hold to until I'm finished with it?
Like when I, you know, when I did this, so I think like for the first semester, I believe I noticed that, you know, I do real good. You check for the first year, returning back. So I decided to say, well, you know, I capitalize on that, and that motivate me see if I just continue press, so check, continue just do good, and I stand hold strong and just do better than.
What were you doing during those 8 years out of school?
Gone to prison a couple of times, you know, hang out on my block. You know, like loan lose, man, no gain, loan loss. You understand? And stuff like those like that just, you know, motivate me. Like I tell you, check for us, you know, tread from a different path. And for me, really, it's the best life I ever lived, being on this path here. You know, this, and I want to give this up. I want to continue dep on this path here, continue strive for greatness. You check, and I want to go back to no streets, no jail, you know that. Understand? I just want to continue to flourish, understand, on this path that I am on. You check? Yeah.
Was it hard to leave the street life behind?
Yeah, a bit. Up to this point, I work on a thing, and like, you know, you face trials and tribulation daily. You know, but then that's how one choose to deal with it, you understand? If you are run over, you know, a bump make for, you know, a bump make for. But then that's how you choose for, you know, like if you're going wrong it or go top it, however, I choose to go wrong it, you understand? Yeah, so that's basically that take it to me, you know, check. I don't make nothing, or nobody try to show me off, you know, check, because like the devil real busy too at times, you understand? Especially when they say like you're transform, then you like to transform, he know how to try, show you off, you understand?
Did you have moments like that while you went back to school? People who tell you, this don't make sense, come back to do?
No, to be honest, no. Like, majority of my family and like friends, because they're not our individual where, you know, my circle very small. You understand? And like, they all motivate me, man. And one thing I could say about my crowd, check, they all motivate me. And I motivate me after, you know, I graduate and stuff like that. One or two, and I decided to tell me like, they want, you know, go back to school now too.
Yeah.
Check.
You know people, I'm sure, who've lost their life to gang violence. Tell me about those moments and how that helped you kind of make your decision that you wanted to have a different path.
Well, with my one of my relatives, and Devin Param, that like, me and him met together the day he got killed. You understand? And that like, after experience all that, like that's what I opened up for me then. You understand? That like, it could have happened to me to Karen, like, you know, like 15 shot close range behind me and he. Luckily I get to it, so then like I believe like the Father have a purpose for me seeing way too. You check? And like all of them let us, you know, like I think about them on a daily basis, and I just, you know, just try something different. Because then we see it over that, you know, in our pay and end of the day alone suffering, and no matter how bad you think you're bad, you know what win. They're not gonna win for win. It doesn't matter at time for, you know, somebody slow you down, you slow down yourself. You dig?
What sort of doors of possibilities has your newfound education opened for you, that you found new doors that has been opened of opportunities and possibilities?
Okay, well, for one, after being enrolled at the Gwenley's Evening Vision High School, I did an alternative to violent program. You understand? And I successfully completed that. You understand? Thereafter, I went to Behavior Modification Conflict Management Service, whereby they have me there as an intern youth officer. You know, my task daily there sort of, you know, like guide, mentor, and motivate others, you know. I go to different schools in the city or check and do presentation, talk to the youths. You understand? For make you understand that nothing of the out or check once, you know, you decide that part, that a crime or violent part or check, I make them know that, you know, you put yourself in a problem, you understand? You put from the oldest to the youngest in your family, household, whatsoever, in a problem as well. You know?
So what does it mean for you to play that role in the lives of these young people?
Well, for be honest, I enjoyed, you know, like talk to them. Because then I know what it's like with all my experience I've been through, you know, so I try my very best for, you know, take my time and, you know, just be real there and make me understand that the streets, you know, better roads, you understand? Yeah, not the out of it, you know, no win the out of win, then you check. I always was losing and suffering, man. I know for one I tell you that, because then I've been there, done that too. You check?
Let's
Vic, what do you wish somebody would have told you when you were 15, 16 and getting in trouble at school?
Well, for be real, the same thing I do for others today, people used to do for me. But then again, like at that time, the moms are like, it bust through the right and fly through the left. You understand? Because daily people used to come and talk to me too, but then, like what I told you earlier, as kids, you don't know, you know, at times they tend to be unruly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had friends already who were out of school? Yeah. So you had some people telling you stay and some people telling you leave?
Correct.
Yeah. What do you think would make a difference now? I mean, you know young men in this country. You know what happen. They fall out of school, they're recruited in gangs, they end up in criminal activity, a path that you could have continued on, but you changed. What do you think would make a difference for other young men out there, for them to take the type of change that you did?
Well, I believe everybody needs somebody, you know, especially when it comes to like weed and street, past street figures, well, you know, and I say a street figure still up to today, you dig? But I believe it's somebody, you dig, that if they like raising up with them on a daily basis and thing, and that if it's support them, you check. I believe that just like how I make the change, they can make the change as well. You understand? But sometimes it real hard to men when you don't really got nobody for like for look out for you, try to guide you. You understand? You will get guide for elders in the streets or stuff like that, and then that only lead to self-destruct. You understand? Now I got no gain for gain out of that.
Tell me a bit about graduation day and that experience that you had when you realized, you know what, I do it, I finally make it through.
Be honest, I just feel real proud of myself too, man, you know. And, you know, feel proud for the march up and thing and have my little princess, my little baby check just to see if, you know, they do a thing and my little son see a way to check because then I believe I motivate them too. You understand? They are, you know, through that little experience, I believe that will help me too, man, because they want to finish their come too. You check what part, they want to walk up and thing too. So I feel real good, man, proud of myself, you know.
You know, fun fact, bro, I never got an opportunity to walk up for my high school graduation because I was such a troublemaker that they called me into the office and they were like, this is your diploma, now get out of my school because we now allow you to march up for the graduation. So kudos to you for having that experience. I'm a bit jealous, but it speaks to your determination and that drive that you had.
Yes, man. You know, like I said earlier, I personally just to continue, you know, strive for greatness to man, you know. I just, like I said, it's the best life I ever live on this part, so I will do whatever it takes to continue be on this part. You understand?
So you say you want to continue at school. You know what you want to do? You know what you want to study? Or what you want to get into?
I'll have to start out, you know, I still start that out and I think to West School I want to go and what's not to check. And I decided to real, you know, real close to like, I do my thing, man, and then I get the guidance from other stuff.
So, how old are you?
25.
25, and your baby, how old?
2.
2 years old.
1, 2 and 1, 9.
Yeah. So I understand your 2-year-old is a huge influence in your life.
Yes. She's a female, correct. She got me on the spot where the pan to the day check, because then I need to see she turn, my woman say away to, and I need to be able to provide she too. You check.
Vic, you ever think what would have happened if you never gone back to school? You ever go down that path and think what might happen if I never do this?
Yeah, at times, that like, I believe personally, like, it may be very selfish of me. You understand? Because then, like, my little princess, you know, like, if I'm getting incarcerated, then I punish. You understand? So, like, all I do while I'm there. Hence the reason I decide, because my meditation, I don't meditate, but that's the reason why I decided to say, well, I need for something different, because then I need to take care of my youth. You understand?
You go back and talk to the young men in prison?
Not as yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
because
as
you
yet.
spent some time there.
Yeah, back in 2014, I did 3 months, and 2017, I did 2 weeks from up on Supreme Court.
And when you were at Colby, I mean, is that part of also the experience where you say, I don't want to come back here?
Yeah, you know, we not regret the experience, you understand? But yeah, I don't believe no person, you know, where they think straight, but I want to go back to jail. I mean, I live with 5 months, you understand? I sweat day and night. You check, so that was a real terrible experience, and I really want to, you know, go back there. You know, so.
What do you say to other young men out there? Maybe they don't drop out of school yet, but right now they feel like school is not for them. Feel like there might be alternatives out there. Maybe they want to go turn to the streets. Maybe they want to go work. Maybe they think life is easier outside of school. What you just say to them based on your experience?
I personally would have still never just hang in, man. You understand? Just hang in and you check. Just believe in yourself. You dig? No give in, man, to frustration or whatever obstacle, trial, tribulation you go through. Just hang in, because, you know, education very important, you understand? So just hang in, man. Yeah, no give up, no give in.
So what is your favorite memory from your return to high school?
Just, you know, just being around my classmates, my teachers and stuff like that, man, you know. Share information with each other, learn from each other,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you have classmates that you'd like to big up that played a huge role in this process for you?
Yeah, well, I have to, you know, because then at times, you know, sometimes I did it for me, just like what I did it for them, you know. One for one, we got Karen, we got Damian, you know, big up on yourself, bro, you know. Yeah.
And tell us about the teachers. The teachers who helped you along the way.
Enough for the teachers that helped me along the way, you know. Enough. You know, and for that I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
You know.
What was your favorite subject? Which one you been good at?
I'm like English.
Yeah. So you had to write essays and stuff like that?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It just feel good because then majority of my stuff I write about my personal life. You know, my experience. I don't imagine nothing, everything I write about a reality. Stuff where I've been through and stuff like that. You know, so yeah, that's my favorite subject, English.
What's your talent? What's your skill? Something that you're hands-on with? Do you do anything? A talent or a skill?
Well, I not really, you know, a sport person or stuff like that.
Sports?
Man, you know, yeah, I'm not really into
you not do sports?
thing.
Okay.
I only watch sports, but I don't really play sports like that, understand? I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Victor, 2022 graduate. Next up, you're going to go for your degree.
Yes.
You're pursuing your degree next. And of course, you took 8 years living on the street, being out of school, and then you went back. This is the type of story I think everybody needs to hear, because we need to believe that people can change their lives. You ever had people doubt you that you couldn't do it?
Yeah, I want to believe so, man. You know, mouth make for talk and you check. You always hear this one and say, nah, make it, but you know that they push me to help me. They make, you know, and my biggest motivator is to check for just prove them wrong to me. Check.
Well, you did.
Correct.
You did.
I'm very proud of myself for that to me. Check, you know, done yet, you know. Up more the climb, you know, stop there.
What's your children's name?
Jia and Derek.
Jia and Derek. Jia and Derek had the moment to be able to see you walk up on that stage and accept your high school diploma, and they're never going to forget that.
Yes, ma'am.
And someday they'll know the whole story and know how hard you worked to be able to get yourself back on the right track.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, Victor, thank you for coming in and telling us your story. We appreciate it. We like a good, positive story. And while we talk with people who are graduating, some people had to work extra hard to be able to do it, and you're one of them.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks,
Thank you.
In these days when we have a lot of cloudiness, a lot of darkness, a lot of rains, it's good for Victor to come and bring some sunshine.
That's right.
Into the studio. So thank you very much, Victor. With that, we'll take our final break, and then when we come back, we'll be wrapping up the show. So stay tuned.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your Social Security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity.
Is your name a common one? Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority.
Fingerprint recognition is here. Social Security at your fingertips.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma de tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
So today we had quite a few conversations focusing on the situation taking place across the country. Thankfully, our principal hydrologist let us know that while there are floods happening at this time, the riverways are not at flood stage, but of course it's continuously monitored as we expect a tropical wave to pass over today.
And then of course we keep our eyes on the north of the country, specifically Orange Walk, where we saw some flooding. The NEMA coordinator over there described it based on his experience as a flash flood of sorts.
Yeah, because he says it raised so fast.
It raised so fast. When I was listening to him, he was saying that like within an hour's time, an hour and a half, the water was already at a flood stage in areas where they weren't seeing flood or they hadn't seen flooding before. And so we know that for those persons in the north, that NEMO and its team, that they'll be on the ground for the rest of the day and for the rest of the week, monitoring. We know that shelters are open in certain communities as well. And then the Ministry of Education, Culture, Science and Technology issued a release not more than an hour ago informing residents in the north, that's Corozal and Orange Walk districts, that all class sessions have been cancelled for today, June 20th, 2022. And this is, of course, as a result of the adverse weather events that we're seeing. So this cancellation of class sessions is based on recommendations from NEMA, as well as the National Meteorological Service. And so that's something for our viewers in the north to keep note of. Schools in other districts, of course, where flooding is being experienced, are asked to advise parents and the ministry on the situation as well.
No, smart call. Nobody wants, I mean, most parents are hesitant to send their children out in this type of weather anyway, especially if they have to walk to school or go and catch public transportation. So That's the update for this morning. Corozal and Orange Walk District schools are cancelled for today. And remember to keep on monitoring as well. You know, we know that the tropical wave is coming in today and the showers will linger for a few more days. So please, if you live in a flood-prone area, just keep on monitoring, keep on getting updates from our national sources and ensure that you do all that you can to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, and then, of course, our final conversation.
Yeah.
We had
I
our
love a good
graduate
turnaround story.
from night school, and
Yeah.
he shared his experience being out of school for 8 years,
Yeah.
Marlene, and then finally deciding, you know what, it's time for me to get out of the streets and recalibrate and get my life back in order. And so he did that, and he bravely shared his story with us this morning, something we truly appreciate.
You know, Victor's story is one that many young men in Belize can identify with. You know, being in school, coming in conflict with the system, getting kicked out, or sometimes it's just struggling with the classwork itself. And a life on the streets seems very appealing at that age. But what he did was different. You know, despite being incarcerated, despite seeing people killed in front of him, he chose 8 years later to go back into the classroom to turn his life around. And we are proud to be able to feature him as one of our achievers for 2022. We've been talking to top achievers, but, you know, Paul, I think I also want to consciously say that while we talk about children who have excelled in school, it is still a time to celebrate all students who've graduated. Some people maybe scraped by to get that diploma, but they did it with lots of hard work, and they all deserve our congratulations.
Yeah, I know students that have withheld the test, been through some very serious adversities when it comes to health, when it comes to finances. I've been seeing stories this year for 2022. Maybe I haven't recognized them before. And so definitely, Marlene, we want to say kudos to those graduates as we are kind of wrapping up the graduation season.
That's right. All right, but that is all the time we have for today. Remember, if you would like to contact us, you just have to send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com.
Or you could find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ, as well as on Instagram at OYE Belize.
And remember, you can tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
And start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes,
Your
your mind,
and your heart
open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank, our country, your bank.